It's time for In the Lab with Dr. Tracy Gibbs, Chief Science Officer for LifeWise. When I pick products to formulate for LifeWise, they're products that will benefit millions of lives. They're products that will make it easy for you to sell because, again, I don't formulate something that only a few thousand people might need. I try to formulate something that a good majority of the population has an issue with. The product I'm speaking about is Restore by LifeWise. People keep asking me what this is. They say, why has the color changed? A lot of people used to refer to this as the magic orange pill. And as you can see, it's now the magic ruby red pill. And we did this because particularly the ingredient that I'm going to be talking about tonight and the other ingredients are quite sensitive to UV. A lot of you, including me, I was guilty of taking these cards and just sticking them like on my bathroom counter because I actually take them before bedtime. And I do have windows in my bathroom. Hardly any of us will actually open up this box and stick them back in the box after we've pulled this out. We as a corporate team decided that we were going to darken the annatto color. So your supplement facts panel doesn't change because annatto is the coloring agent we were using for our orange color in the actual capsule, right? Not on the inside, but on the capsule. We decided to darken that. And we're darkening it because of UV. It protects the ingredients internally from UV radiation, thus improving the shelf life and improving the efficacy of the product over time. Again, any company out there that is storing their products in bottles or jars or packages that allow light into them shouldn't be doing that. It's kind of common sense in the dietary supplement industry. That's not something you should do. It's one of the reasons why, for example, when you look at our individually wrapped strips, our oral strips, they all come in these nice foil packages here, which keep out light. Well, we needed to do the same with our soft gels. So hopefully that answers a whole bunch of people's questions as to why has my Restore changed colors. But I want to focus tonight on the key ingredients found in Restore and how they can restore your mobility. And I'm going to focus on one that we don't talk a lot about, maybe because it's difficult for people to pronounce, but we call it PEA because that's the acronym for polyethylenamide. Yes, it's a tongue twister, polyethylenamide. And no, we don't call it P. It is not like green P, PEA. It is capital P, capital E, capital A. Not dots in between. Nobody does the dots in between, even though it is an acronym, but it's because it's one word. What's cool about polyethylenamide or PEA is it's a cannabinoid. Now, I know a lot of you are familiar with that term. You're like, wait, it's CBD? No, it's not CBD. Cannabinoid is a broad category of phytochemicals that are found naturally in plants. Mostly they're found in cruciferous vegetables, but of course they're highly concentrated in hemp and even higher concentrations in marijuana. The PEA that I'm talking about does not come from hemp and it is not from marijuana. It is from cruciferous vegetables, particularly Brussels sprouts. Our polyethylenamide comes from Brussels sprouts. So you can call it a Brussels sprout extract if you want, although it's highly concentrated, all right? But because it is a cannabinoid, it works on your body's endocannabinoid system. Now, that may be a term that you're not familiar with, but just like we have a circulatory system or a lymphatic system, we also have an endocannabinoid system, which is almost parallel to your central nervous system. It's really cool. And then right alongside that is the endocannabinoid system, which also has receptor sites and also when it misfires in communication can cause problems just like misfiring in your central nervous system can cause problems for you. Imagine if, like, again, you have a whole limb that goes numb and it's not a circulatory problem. It's literally like a central nervous problem. Imagine if that stopped firing. Well, in the endocannabinoid system, it happens a lot. And it's one of the reasons why CBD is such a popular item today and was extremely popular. Of course, it was a buzzword from about 2017 to 2022, 23, somewhere around there. And again, because of the FDA rulings on it and whatnot, a lot of people are fearful of using CBD from hemp or from marijuana, which is fine. It's justified. I want to explain the difference between PEA as a cannabinoid and CBD as a cannabinoid, or THC or other types of cannabinoids. First and foremost, CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, THC, those are derived from marijuana and or hemp. Hemp does not contain THC, but it's got a whole slew of other cannabinoids in it. PEA comes from cruciferous vegetables, all right? Big difference in those two. Number two, human clinical studies. Now, believe it or not, even though CBD is widely studied, it still has only 500 or 600 real large human clinical studies. The majority of them were on animals. PEA, on the other hand, has literally hundreds and hundreds of human clinical studies on it. When it comes to safety, there are no adverse effects or safety concerns at all with PEA, even at extremely large doses, whereas with hemp-derived CBD, there are, because it does contain trace amounts of THC. And if you take extremely large amounts of hemp-derived CBD, there is a possibility of having slight hallucinogenic effects or long-term liver effects because of the THC content. Even though in milligram amounts, you're only going to get parts per million, but in large doses, 40, 50, 60 milligrams, you're going to have more than parts per million. You're going to have microgram doses of THC. Let's talk about WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association. Of course, CBD from hemp is on the banned list. But guess what? The cannabinoid PEA is not on the banned list. All you athletes out there who are concerned about taking Restore or something like this for your joint and flexibility, muscle restoration, things like that, no concern at all. PEA is not on the WADA banned list. So as an athlete or a professional athlete, it's totally fine for you to use. PEA is also approved as a dietary supplement, whereas CBD from hemp is not. Huge differences there. So now that we've established the differences, let's talk a little bit about what PEA is and what it does. So now that we know that it's a cannabinoid and that it works on your endocannabinoid system and that it comes from cruciferous vegetables, so it's perfectly safe, not on the WADA banned list, etc., let's talk about how to use it and what it does. We want to go over specifically a couple of clinical studies and the FDA approved claims for PEA. Because there's so many studies, there are actually approved what we call structure function approved claims by the FDA. There's 4 of them so far. There'll probably be more as more studies are done, but so far, support symptoms of mild to moderate osteoarthritis. Is that cool? Support symptoms of mild to moderate osteoarthritis. Supports joint function. Supports joint stiffness. Supports joint comfort. I know that those claims are not saying much, but for the FDA to say, hey, these are approved claims, that's a huge deal. Because on most dietary supplements, we can't make any claims whatsoever. I want to go over the 5 published peer-reviewed clinical studies on the particular type of PEA that we use. I'm going to jump into that for just a minute because PEA as a cannabinoid doesn't have very high bioavailability. I think many of you who have, studied about CBD before know that CBD only has about a 5 to 11% oral bioavailability. Yes, it's because it's a cannabinoid. The reason why people smoke marijuana is because inhalation of CBDs and THC has about 40% bioavailability. So it's about 4 times more efficacious to smoke marijuana than it would be to put it in a dropper and orally ingest it. Well, with PEA, we have similar absorption restrictions, which is why we use a trademarked and patented liposomal PEA called Levagen. You don't need to remember that term. It's not important, but it is a particular brand that we buy. It's what makes it kind of on the more expensive side, but it comes with peer-reviewed clinical studies, which is why I chose to buy this particular brand. And I'm going to read some of those studies, but let's talk first and foremost just about the absorption enhancement properties of this particular type of liposomal PEA. It is 40% more bioavailable than a non-liposomal PEA. The liposomal PEA that we're using had 5 published clinical studies. I'm going to read one of those. This particular PEA demonstrated a dose-dependent improvement in WOMAC scores, which included, of course, improvement in discomfort, stiffness, and function compared to a placebo in the management of mild to moderate osteoarthritis. If you're not familiar with WOMAC scores, you can go ahead and just do a quick search on that, WOMAC, WOMAC scores. Every time you go in for like osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, any type of bone degeneration, a doctor's going to want to do a WOMAC test on you. All right. Our particular type of liposomal PEA also showed morning and evening joint ache reduction when compared to a placebo over 14 days. So again, in only 14 days, we were receiving improvement. Our PEA was also shown to reduce anxiety and improve quality of life, providing PEA's relevance in the application of sleep. Now, because it is a cannabinoid, cannabinoids affect people differently. PEA and other cannabinoids can actually calm people down. Like if you've got anxiety, if you've got overstress, if you have trouble sleeping, things like that, people use CBD and other cannabinoids to help calm them down. And our particular PEA was shown in a study to reduce anxiety. It was also part of an extended endocannabinoid study, including its comparison with CBD, and it showed that it had a direct impact on CB1 receptors similar to CBD from hemp. So it worked very similar to CBD from hemp. There's another human clinical study which demonstrated significantly reduced levels of myoglobin, which, by the way, myoglobin is a inflammation marker for muscle damage. If you are a bodybuilder or a weightlifter and you rip yourself up because you're lifting heavy weights, your myoglobin levels skyrocket because of the muscle damage. Like if you're a competition lifter, you kind of have to monitor those levels until they get back to normal range for you to know that your muscles have healed. Using PEA significantly reduced the levels of myoglobin, and it stimulated other muscle healing pathways, specifically the AKT and the BKB pathways. Now, again, we're not going to go into detail as to what those are. I'm just going to say it simply. This assists in muscle recovery when your muscles have been damaged, all right? Not only do we have this particular type of safe, beneficial, cruciferous, vegetable extracted cannabinoid known as PEA or polyethylenamide in our Restore product, but it's also combined with, of course, what everybody knows, what I call the miracle molecule, a liposomal curcumin and a boswellic acid, and not just any boswellic acid, but a special boswellic acid in the form of AKBA. So I want you to write this word down because this is going to be a hard one too. AKBA stands for Acetyl-Keto-Beta-Boswellic acid. It's a particular type of boswellic acid that has the most clinical studies, but is also the most rare. And for those of you who are familiar with boswellic acid, you'll be like, oh, that's frankincense. I have frankincense oil in my home. Guess what? You don't get AKBA from your essential oils. It doesn't turn into a gas and therefore cannot be steam distilled into an essential oil. This can only be extracted using methods like using DMSO, which is a natural sulfur compound, or ethyl alcohols or things like that. Again, it is naturally extracted. Alcohol and DMSO are natural ingredients, but you won't get it in your essential oils. Now, I love frankincense essential oil, and it does help with inflammation because it's got other types. It has keto-beta-boswellic acid. It has beta-boswellic acid, but it doesn't have the acetyl-keto-beta-boswellic acid. Oh boy, that's getting to be a tongue twister now. Frankincense has been used for a very long time for inflammation and for pain. For those of you who love essential oils, you know the phrase, when in doubt, use frankincense, meaning if you're trying to heal somebody of something and you don't know what to do, use frankincense because chances are it's going to help you. And that is true, but there are properties in the essential oil that are beneficial for you, of course, but there are other properties in frankincense that are not found using the steam distillation process, that can only be found through other extraction methods like what we have in Restore. And they happen to be some of the most powerful constituents found within the frankincense resin, okay? And again, that is called AKBA, Acetyl-Keto-Beta-Boswellic acid. And we actually have a standardized version of that, so we can actually, through gas chromatography and through HPLC testing, determine the exact milligram amount that we have in each one of these capsules. It's written right on the label. You can see it right on your label. I also want to go over some of the studies, because one of the largest human clinical studies done on AKBA was done on the exact same AKBA that we buy from the exact same vendor. They published this in July 17th, 2020 in the BMC Complementary Medicine Therapy magazine publication, involving 545 patients with severe pain. They compared the use of AKBA boswellic acid with the control group, and the boswellia extract relieved pain and WOMAC scores, improved stiffness and joint function and flexibility significantly over the control group. There was also a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial to assess not only the safety but the efficacy. They did a 120-day-long study, which, by the way, is a pretty long human clinical study. In fact, it's longer than any other study done on osteoarthritis. This, by the way, was an osteoarthritis study. So a 120-day study on osteoarthritis of the knee. The findings provided significant evidence that the biologically active constituent, namely AKBA, acted to exert anti-inflammatory and anti-arthritic activity, showing both improvement in physical and functional ability, as well as quality of life and reduction of pain and stiffness in the knee. Is that crazy or what? And again, I'm quoting you the studies here. I want to cover a little bit about our liposomal curcumin. I believe I've done trainings on curcumin before. You know that curcumin has one of the longest documented written history for use as a therapeutic agent in human beings. We have Sanskrit records that date back to 2000 BC. We're talking 4,000 years ago that we know that it's been used in Ayurvedic medicine for digestion, joint health, respiratory health, wound and skin healing. Now, curcumin is one of the most widely clinically studied molecules in the entire nutritional and nutraceutical industry. Again, over 5,000 peer-reviewed published clinical studies. I'm not going to get too much into those studies. I think everybody knows what an amazing molecule that curcumin is. I do want to touch on the fact of bioavailability. We talk about the BET technology used at LifeWise, the bioavailability enhancing technology, how every single one of our products contains a particular type of BET, or bioavailability enhancing technology. The curcumin that we use is no different. It is, again, a trademarked and patented extraction process using what's called SMEDS technology. Self-micro-emulsifying delivery system is what SMEDS stands for. SMEDDS. There are actually two Ds in SMEDS, but the second D stands for drug, self-micro-emulsifying drug delivery technology. When it comes to science, people consider all molecules drugs, even though they're not. It basically is a different type of liposomal encapsulation. It's where the molecule can self-emulsify because of a high shear or high speed homogenization process, or a high pressure homogenization process, where it bonds with the lipid molecule, self-emulsifying or self-bonding with the lipid molecule to enhance the absorption of the molecule. Because curcumin in and of itself is like less than 5% bioavailable. For you guys listening out there who are taking other curcumin supplements, just know if you spend $50 on that curcumin supplement, you are throwing away virtually $48 to $49 of that $50 is being flushed down the toilet. There is no bioavailability in a non-liposomal curcumin product. Now, even if you have it combined with piperine or black pepper extract, you've only improved the bioavailability by 100%. And I know that sounds amazing, but think about this. If bioavailability of curcumin all by itself is only 5%, and you improve that by 100%, you've doubled it, right? So your bioavailability of curcumin with black pepper extract is 10%. So now you're only flushing down $90 of your $100 you spent. Hey, what a great savings, When you look at liposomal technology on curcumin, in 2010, Dr. Robert Nicolosi at the University of Massachusetts, using a microemulsion technology, increased not only the absorption, but the efficacy of curcumin by 1,000 times. That's what we're talking about when we talk about SMEDS technology. We're not talking about 100% absorption rate. We're talking about 1,000 times absorption rate. I mean, basically, we're making it perfect when we use this SMEDS technology. The safety studies have been proven. You can, of course, take way more than the recommended dose on this. I mean, again, if you're just using it for like preventative type purposes, of course, follow the recommended use on this. But if you want to take more, experiment. That's the cool thing about dietary supplements. Think of it as a recipe. When you get a recipe from your neighbor for like oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, can you deviate from that recipe if you want? You bet. If I wanted to add a little bit of cinnamon to it or some raisins to it, I can do that. Dietary supplements are food, and you can do that with food. If I want to take 6 capsules instead of 2 capsules, I can do that. It's perfectly safe. Am I going to have an improved benefit? For me, probably yes. For you, I don't know. That's the thing. We can't make any claims if you deviate from the dose. In some cases, more is better. Okay. I think we've covered the 3 main ingredients found in Restore, all blended together to give you the anti-inflammatory benefits that I can't find anywhere else in any other supplement. I'm addicted to this stuff. I take 2 capsules every night. There are times when I take more. I just got off of a little backpacking trip in the high Uintas. And of course, carrying a 45 pound backpack made my back and hips not so happy. And so I was doing 4 to 6 capsules a day when I was on that camping trip. I will see you all next week. Join Chris Clem in the lab tomorrow night, and then Greg and Sylvia on Thursday night also for flipping the chart and learning about our compensation plan. So we'll see you all next week here in the lab, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, every single Tuesday here on my page. Have a good evening. Bye.